Good morning. My name is Matthew Gaines. I'm from Cedar Hill ISD. It's a suburb just south of Dallas, Texas. And I teach at Lake Ridge Elementary, and I've been there for 5 years. I'm entering my sixth year teaching with all the COVID craziness going on. And it's been a struggle, but we're all going to get through it just fine. What I wanted to share with you today is a research project that I did over the last 2 years at this point. One of my hobbies is fishing, and it's actually a passion of mine. My second passion would be education, of course, and I've learned how to combine the two in a way where it helps my students be successful. And that's kind of what I've learned through this research, and I'm going to kind of explain. So let me zoom in real quick. Nope, wrong, not that. See if this works. Okay, so my research question and rationale was to explore how the student learning experience could change by taking the kids fishing. How will it improve? Will it hurt? Will how will it affect it? The goal is to determine how it will change and kind of measure it. And the rationale behind it is to improve. We're always looking for ways to improve student achievement and success, and that was the rationale behind this research. Research that I kind of focused on to help me plan how I wanted to kind of attack this project was, to see how being outdoors helps the educational process. And so there are several quotes from those resources that I read to help guide my project that kind of reinforce that. To give you some context of the school I work at, Lake Ridge Elementary is a Title I school, and it is a pre-K through fifth grade campus. There's currently, at the time of this project, there are 377 students, and the demographics are listed there: 56% African American, 25% Hispanic, 8% white, 7% one or more, 3% Asian, and 1% Indian, American Indian, Alaskan Native. I tested 12 fifth graders, and the demographics of that group were mostly African American and Hispanic. And as far as gender goes, there were more female students than male. I believe there were 7 females and 5 males. Let me go back up to the top of my poster. What was included in the method? Participants started out taking pre-assessment and an end or post-assessment. That is for reference. If you hear me mention, from pre to post, the growth and everything, I'm referencing how I measured it, and that was with a pre and a post assessment. The fishing club, and that's essentially what I did. I took a group of 12 students. They signed up to be part of the fishing club. At Lake Ridge, we have, Club Friday, and I ran the fishing club. So those were 6 meetings, 1 hour at a time, every other week for a couple months. While in the fishing club, things that were introduced and practiced, we worked on patience, which is a huge part of fishing. You have to be patient. You can't rush things. They made observations in nature and use those observations to make good bait choices based on what is currently occurring in the nature around them. They identified structures and functions of real organisms captured at the lake, and they practiced environmental conservation. So it was really stressed that we wanted to leave the lake better than we found it. So we would pick up garbage while we were there. We certainly wouldn't leave garbage, and we practiced and learned those things as well. In the event of bad weather, I had some backup plans. We studied weather patterns and how it could possibly affect the habits and behavior of fish. We learned how to practice casting. We would be casting indoors. No one got hurt. I took the hooks off everything, but it was fun. And they learned that part of fishing if it was raining outside. And then we would watch professionals talk about something called positive mental attitude. I fish on a level where I fish competitively, and it's in fishing tournaments. And part of that is just staying positive. I can know as much as I think I know about fish, and sometimes it's a struggle. You just don't get bites and you can't really figure out why. And you have to stay positive because it will eventually happen. But if you spin out, just like any other sport, once you lose your, your mental calmness, it's going to affect your performance in any sport and especially in fishing. So that has helped me in overall life, not just fishing. And I know a lot of my kids can help with, especially with the big push for SEL. That's a big, that's easily linked to that. Those are some of my kids. All of them, that was their first fish. It was a real neat day. I love sharing my passion with my kids and being that person that gets to take them fishing for the first time. They catch their first fish with me. It's a real special memory that I get to share with all of my kids. But anyway, the data. The data was collected from students using those pre and post assessments. The pre and post here, I kind of focused on two main things. The first one was fishing confidence and knowledge. What did they know? And I asked them to be very honest. And as you can see with the blue bars at the bottom left, they did not know how to fish, either no knowledge or very little. And by the end of it, by the green bars on the same chart, that it shifted almost completely where they feel like they can be successful. And a large majority of them actually felt so confident that they can actually teach others to fish by the end of the 6 weeks or the 6 meetings. How was the pre and post? I'm going to jump up here for a second. How was the pre and post assessment made? There was 4 fifth grade science star release questions. So actual state standard issued questions that are not necessarily about fishing, but about nature that I wanted to focus in on. And then 1 teacher created question, which is actually the one picture just to the right. And then the last chart would be the pre and post assessment comparison chart. That was on the grades. So based on those 4 science star release questions and the one right above there, and I'll get more into the percentages, but you can see a clear shift with the blue bars. It looks like around 60 something was the average there. And then by the end of it, the green bars, there was a large shift to the 80s and 100%. And that's actually going to bring me to the next thing we're going to talk about. The results. So the pre-survey, 83% of my students have never gone fishing. The average self-rating fishing scale I kind of made out of 1 to 5, what's their knowledge level? The average was 1.991. The pre-assessment, the questions, the star release questions, the class average was 67. And that was pretty much on target because I had just got done teaching all of the life science units and TEKS and everything. And the unit test finished around 64% mastery for the entire 5th grade student body. So the 12 students that I had in the fishing club, that's pretty close to what I was able to collect from that unit test. It matched with the pre-test of the fishing club around 60, 67. Now the post survey, this is after they went fishing and did all the activities. They reported higher fishing confidence. The average fishing self-rated scale was at 3.41 out of that 1 to 5 scale. 75% of my students seemed happy and eager that they could now teach others to fish. The post assessment, this is where I was kind of blown away. The class average went from 67 from the pretest to an 88%, and the only life science exposure that these kids had was in this fishing club. I was done teaching it for the year. I was spiraling a couple things, but I didn't spiral this stuff yet because I had just got done teaching it. And it was literally, as far as I am aware, the only life science exposure they had was through that fishing club. And it took them from 67%, content knowledge to 88%. That really, really shocked me. Some things to discuss. It has had impressive effects on the science content mastery and comprehension, as I just mentioned. A 21% point jump from pre to post during the duration of the club. 75% of my students improved their science comprehension. And I also want to note there that none of them went down. They either got the same score, 25% of them got the same score, and 75% of them actually jumped up considerably. And I also noticed that the students that were most engaged in this process and enthusiastic, they had the largest gains from the pre to the post. The evidence supports that the concept of turning an educational concept into a real-world learning experience is an extremely powerful teaching method. And by taking advantage of their interests and natural curiosity and taking them out into the field to learn these things, I mean, that's a considerable jump. I was truly impressed. I was not expecting that much of a jump. Some implications for future action. I'm going to obviously continue doing the fishing club. We don't have kids in the building at the moment, but we will soon, hopefully. And to ensure the success of this program, if you want to do it at your own school, you need to, I suggest applying to outdoor grants like the Ike Foundation. I did forget to talk about that. Let me go back up here real quick. The Ike Foundation is a foundation that their main goal is to get kids fishing. And I wrote a grant last year, and I actually wrote two, and I received both of them. The first one was for my campus. It was a $2,500 grant for fishing supplies. Every one of these kids I took fishing last year got to take home that rod and reel that they used. So after I taught them how to use it, they got to keep it. And that was pretty neat, watching them walk out of the building kind of like little soldiers holding swords, but they were fishing poles. So there are grants out there to help you. Use as many hands-on activities as possible in the actual environment that they are meant to be used in. So we're using fishing poles, we're using, bait buckets, they're going to get, especially if you catch fish, you're going to get some, mud and fish slime, and kids love it. Keep activities aligned to state standards. That can be a little tricky. I know a lot of teachers like to do a lot of fun stuff, but if it's not aligned, it's not really going to help out in the long run. You got to make sure your stuff is aligned. And then start out small and grow as you gain confidence in the process. I'm a fisherman. This was my complete zone of comfort, so I succeeded fairly well. But you don't have to be a fisherman to do these things. There's actually a program, at least in Texas, where you can call the Texas Parks and Wildlife, and they will send fishing educators. If you plan something at a lake, they will send people, and I think they even bring gear, and they will teach children how to fish. It's a real neat little system. But I had a blast doing this project. It was really, really neat to see the effectiveness of fishing and education kind of being blended. And that jump from, 67 to 88. It was just that I was, when I saw those numbers, I was blown away. I was super impressed. But that was my little project, Hooked on Science. And I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you can implement something similar in your own campus. Thank you for listening.